I loaned my sister $100,000 to start her business, but she called me a petty loser when I asked her to pay it back. At a family dinner, she bragged about her accomplishments, but I revealed the truth about who really financed her. It started with a phone call late one night. My sister, Ashley, was in tears, her voice shaking as she explained how desperately she needed my help. She had an idea, she said, a foolproof plan to start her own business, but she was strapped for cash. "Amanda," she pleaded, "you are the only one I can count on. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important." Ashley had always been the golden child, charming and self-assured. While I worked quietly behind the scenes, saving every penny, she had a knack for getting what she wanted. This time was no different. I hesitated. Lending money to family was risky, and Ashley wasn't known for her financial discipline. But she painted a picture so compelling, a fancy boutique she'd dreamed of for years, a chance to turn her life around, that I finally agreed. It wasn't a small sum. I had to dip into my savings, the same savings I'd been putting away for years to buy my own place. "I'll pay you back as soon as the business takes off," she promised, her eyes wide with sincerity. For months, I watched Ashley's boutique come to life. She posted glamorous photos on social media, showing off the grand opening, the beautiful decor, the trendy products. People flocked to her store, and soon it became a local hotspot. But as the boutique flourished, Ashley's promises faded. Every time I brought up repayment, she deflected with excuses. "It's just not the right time, Amanda," she'd say breezily, waving me off. "You'll get your money. Relax." Her dismissiveness stung, but I swallowed my pride. I didn't want to create tension, especially with my family. It wasn't until a family dinner months later that things came to a head. The family dinner was supposed to be a casual get-together, a chance to catch up and share laughs. It had been a while since we'd all been in the same room, and I was looking forward to it. For once, I thought, I might be able to enjoy myself without worrying about Ashley and the unpaid debt hanging over my head. When I arrived, Ashley was already holding court, her laughter echoing throughout the dining room. She sat at the center of attention, impeccably dressed as always. Her boutique had clearly been doing well, and she wasn't shy about flaunting it. "Business is booming," she declared, swirling her wine glass dramatically. "I mean, it's really all about hard work and vision, isn't it? Not everyone has what it takes to succeed." Her words cut through me, sharp and deliberate. She wasn't just bragging, she was making a point. My silence didn't go unnoticed. As the evening wore on, Ashley's bragging grew louder. She regaled everyone with stories of her boutique's success, peppering her tales with just enough condescension to remind me of my place. "It's all about taking risks," she said, glancing in my direction. "Some people just aren't brave enough to follow their dreams." The knot in my stomach tightened. I had kept quiet for so long, trying to avoid conflict, but her words felt like a slap in the face. Not once had she acknowledged my role in her success. To everyone in the room, she was the self-made businesswoman, the shining star of the family. I bit my tongue and forced myself to focus on my plate. But Ashley wasn't done. "My boutique's numbers are up again this quarter," she said, beaming. "Honestly, it's a testament to my resilience and determination. It's not like anyone handed me success on a silver platter." The room filled with murmurs of admiration, but I couldn't hold it in any longer. My fork clattered against my plate as I looked up to meet her gaze. "You're right," I said, my voice calm but sharp. "No one handed you success. But someone did hand you the money to get started." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to me, and for the first time that night, Ashley's confident smile faltered. Ashley's smile faded, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her tone clipped, though I could see the cracks forming in her composure. I straightened in my chair, feeling a surge of courage I hadn't expected. "Your boutique," I said, my voice clear. "It didn't just appear out of nowhere. You needed money to start it. And who were you calling in the middle of the night begging for help?" The table was silent, everyone's eyes darting between Ashley and me. My parents exchanged confused glances, while my younger brother leaned forward, clearly intrigued. Ashley's cheeks flushed, but she quickly regained her composure. "I don't know what you're trying to say," she said with a dismissive laugh. "But if you're implying that I owe my success to anyone but myself, you're way off base." I felt the anger rise in my chest, fueled by months of frustration. "You mean the thousands of dollars I loaned you don't count? The money I saved for years? Or the promise you made to pay me back once your business took off?" A gasp escaped my mother's lips. My father's brow furrowed as he looked at Ashley, who was visibly squirming. Ashley waved her hand in an attempt to dismiss me. "Oh, come on, Amanda," she said, her voice tinged with annoyance. "I told you I'd pay you back. I've just been busy. Busy spending money on everything but what you owe me." I shot back, my voice sharper now. "Do you know how humiliating it was to sit here and listen to you brag about accomplishments you couldn't have even started without my help?" Ashley's jaw tightened, and for a moment it looked like she was going to explode. Instead, she laughed short and bitter. "Petty," she muttered under her breath. "You're being petty, Amanda. Seriously, who brings up money at a family dinner? It's embarrassing." I felt my hands shake as the words sank in. Petty. This was her defense after all? But before I could respond, my father spoke up, his voice calm but firm. "Is this true, Ashley? Did Amanda give you the money to start your business?" Ashley froze. The entire table was waiting for her answer, the weight of their eyes on her. Ashley opened her mouth to answer, but no words came out. The confidence that had filled the room moments ago was gone. She looked around the table, her eyes darting between our parents and me, looking for a way to get out of the corner I'd backed her into. "Well," she finally said, forcing a strained laugh, "it's not like I wasn't planning on getting back at her. Amanda just has a way of making things bigger than they are." "Bigger than they are?" I said incredulously. "Ashley, I loaned you my savings money I'd been putting away for years and you ignored me every time I asked for it back. And now you're sitting here acting like you did all this on your own?" My father's expression darkened. "Ashley, answer the question. Did Amanda give you the money to open your boutique?" Ashley sighed dramatically and leaned back in her chair as if she were the one being wronged. "Fine," she said, throwing up her hands. "Yes, Amanda helped. But what does it matter? The success of the boutique is due to me, not her. You wouldn't even have a boutique without Amanda." My mother interjected, her voice rising in disbelief. "How could you not tell us? And why didn't you pay her back?" Ashley's face flushed with anger. "Oh, come on," she snapped. "It's not like she's starving without it. Amanda loves to play the martyr. She can't stand to see me succeed without trying to take some of the credit." Her words were like a slap, and I could feel the room shift. My parents exchanged glances, their disappointment palpable. My younger brother muttered and shook his head. "You know what's really embarrassing, Ashley?" I said, my voice steady despite the heat in my chest. "It's how you've used everyone around you to get ahead and then tossed them aside the moment it suited you. And now when you're called out, all you can do is insult me and deflect the blame." Ashley's hands clenched into fists on the table. She looked ready to strike back, but before she could, my mother spoke up. "You owe Amanda an apology," she said firmly. "And you need to figure out how to make it up to her right now." Ashley's jaw dropped. For the first time that night, she looked genuinely shaken. "Are you serious?" she asked, her voice shaking. "You're taking her side?" Ashley's voice rose now, her composure completely gone. "This is ridiculous. I've worked so hard for everything I have, and you're acting like I'm some kind of criminal. Do you have any idea how stressful it is to run a business?" My father crossed his arms, his expression unyielding. "Ashley, the stress of running a business doesn't excuse you from keeping your word. Amanda didn't have to help you, but she did. And you took advantage of her generosity." Ashley's face flushed a deep red, and I could see her temper boiling over. "Taking advantage?" she shouted, her voice cracking. "This is exactly why I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. Amanda has always been jealous of me. She can't handle the fact that I've built something successful while she's just Ash. Stop, I said, cutting her off. My voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough to silence the room. This isn't about jealousy, Ashley. It's about respect, something you clearly don't have for me or anyone else. She stared at me, her mouth opening and closing as if searching for an answer. The room was tense, and for the first time, I felt like I had the upper hand. Every time I asked you to pay me back, you treated it like a joke. I continued. You dismissed me, called me petty, and made me feel like I was wrong to expect you to keep your promise. But now everyone knows the truth. This isn't jealousy, it's accountability. My mother leaned forward, her voice calm but firm. Ashley, your behavior tonight was shocking. We raised you better than that. Ashley scoffed and pushed her chair back from the table. Oh, please, she said, her voice dripping with bitterness. You're all so quick to gang up on me, like I'm the villain here. Amanda loves to play the victim, and you're all falling for it. You're the one who made this mess, Ashley, my father said, his tone unyielding. It's time for you to start taking responsibility. Ashley's hands shook as she stood, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. You know what? Fine. Believe whatever you want. I don't need this. She stormed out of the room, her heels clicking furiously on the floor. The door slammed behind her, leaving a stunned silence. The room was silent for a moment after Ashley stormed out. My mother leaned back in her chair and rubbed her temples as if trying to process what had just happened. My dad let out a heavy sigh and shook his head in disbelief. I can't believe her, my mom finally said, her voice low but filled with frustration. To treat you like this after all you've done for her? It's unacceptable. She's always been like this, I said quietly, staring at the empty chair Ashley had left behind. But this was a new low. My younger brother, who had been mostly silent throughout the evening, finally spoke up. She didn't even deny it, he said, his tone almost amused. She basically admitted to using you and then tried to spin it like you were the bad guy. I shrugged, trying to hide the anger and hurt that was still swirling inside me. It doesn't matter now. She's gone, and frankly, I'm glad. I'm tired of pretending everything's fine when she's been treating me like this for months. My father nodded solemnly. You were right to call her out. It was a long time coming and she needed to hear it. My mother looked at me, her expression softening. We'll figure it out, she said gently. You shouldn't have to carry this burden alone anymore. Her words were reassuring, but I couldn't shake the knot of tension in my chest. I had spent so long trying to avoid conflict, hoping Ashley would come around on her own. Instead, it had taken a public confrontation to finally bring the truth to light. As the evening wore on, my parents and I began to discuss practical solutions. My dad suggested legal action if Ashley refused to repay the loan, while my mom offered to mediate and make sure the debt was addressed. For the first time in months, I felt like I wasn't fighting this battle alone. But there was still a part of me that feared what was next. Ashley wasn't the type to give up easily, and I knew she wouldn't let this go without a fight. After Ashley stormed out, I sat there staring at the table, trying to calm the mix of anger and exhaustion that was running through me. My parents were still dealing with everything. It wasn't just the money anymore, it was the realization of who Ashley had become. She's always had this entitlement, my dad said after a long silence, shaking his head. But I didn't think it would get this bad. I nodded, not really knowing what to say. It felt strange to hear them agree with me. For so long, I'd been the one watching Ashley get away with everything, the one silently dealing with her antics while they turned a blind eye. Now they finally saw what I'd been dealing with. My mom sighed and put a hand on mine. We'll help you get the money back, she said. Enough is enough. It was comforting to hear, but I couldn't help but feel a little cynical. Ashley wasn't someone who would just admit she was wrong and hand over the money. She'd fight this tooth and nail to avoid admitting that she'd used me. After dinner, my parents stayed to talk things through. My dad suggested that we keep all the texts and emails in which Ashley acknowledged the loan. It might come in handy later, he said. Mom said she'd reach out to Ashley in a few days when things cooled down, though I doubted Ashley would respond kindly. When they left, the house was eerily quiet. I sat on the couch, replaying the dinner in my mind. Part of me felt relieved I'd finally stood up to Ashley, finally said out loud what I'd been holding in for months. But there was also a sense of sadness. She was my sister, after all. How did we get here? The next morning I woke up to several missed calls from Ashley. Typical. She wasn't done yet, and I wasn't looking forward to whatever drama she had planned next. The missed calls from Ashley didn't surprise me. She always had a way of trying to regain control after losing it. I ignored her, not willing to hear whatever excuse or insult she had lined up. Instead, I focused on gathering my thoughts and the evidence my father had mentioned: texts, emails, anything that could support my side if this escalated. By the afternoon, the calls had stopped, replaced by texts. At first they were aggressive. "You embarrassed me in front of everyone. You think you're so perfect, but you're not." I rolled my eyes. It sounded just like Ashley deflecting and attacking when backed into a corner. But then the tone changed. "Look, I didn't mean to hurt you. Let's just forget about last night and move on." I almost laughed. Forget it? That wasn't going to happen. Later, my mom called. "I talked to Ashley," she said in a tired voice. "She's mad, Amanda. She says she's not paying you back and that you're just trying to ruin her reputation." "Of course she said that," I replied, pinching the bridge of my nose. "She can't admit she's wrong." Mom sighed. "I told her it's not about her reputation, it's about doing the right thing. I don't know if she'll listen, but your dad and I are behind you on this. If we have to take legal action, we will." Hearing that was a relief. For years I had dealt with Ashley's selfishness on my own, but now I wasn't the only one who saw it. My parents, who had always excused her behavior, were finally on my side. That night, I received another message from Ashley. This time it was shorter. "Fine. I'll talk to Mom and Dad. But don't expect me to forgive you for ruining my night." Ruining her night? I shook my head, amazed at her ability to turn the situation around. I didn't answer. She wanted a reaction, but I wasn't going to give her one. A few days of radio silence from Ashley passed, and I began to think maybe she'd finally backed off. But then, on the third day, I came home from work to find a letter in my mailbox. No envelope, no stamp, just a folded piece of paper with her handwriting scrawled on it. I opened it, half expecting an apology, but of course it wasn't. "You made this so much worse than it had to be. Congratulations on turning the whole family against me. Don't think I'm just going to let you win." Win? What was this, some kind of contest? I crumpled up the paper and threw it in the trash, feeling a new wave of frustration. Ashley wasn't going to make this easy. Later that night, my parents called again. My mom sounded exhausted, her usual patience with Ashley clearly running out. "Your sister came by earlier," she said. "She was difficult, to say the least." "What did she say this time?" I asked, pulling myself together. "She still refuses to pay," Mom replied. "But your father laid it out for her. He told her if she doesn't pay you back, we'll have no choice but to take legal action." That was bold, especially coming from my father, who usually avoided confrontation at all costs. "How did she take it?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "She yelled at us," Mom said, her voice heavy with disappointment. "Said we were choosing sides and that we had always favored you. Then she stormed out." A bitter laugh escaped me. "Always favored me? She's the one who's been a baby all her life." "I know," Mom said quietly. "And your dad and I are starting to see that now. We're sorry it took us so long." Hearing that hit me harder than I expected. For years, I'd felt like the outsider in my own family, the one who worked hard while Ashley coasted on charm and manipulation. But now, for the first time, my parents truly saw her for who she was. The fallout continued to unfold in slow, chaotic waves. Ashley wasn't done fighting. She wasn't the type to let go of her version of events without dragging everyone through the mud first. 2 days after my parents confronted her, she made another bold move. This time, she showed up at their house uninvited while I was there. I had stopped by for coffee and a calm discussion about the next steps in getting the loan back. The last thing I expected was Ashley bursting in, her voice raised as she walked through the door. "Do you really think you're going to get away with this?" she yelled, glaring at me. "Turn Mom and Dad against me? Over a few lousy dollars?" I remained seated, refusing to give her the satisfaction of a dramatic reaction. "It's not a few dollars, Ashley. It's thousands. And it's money you promised to pay back." Her face twisted in anger. "You've always been jealous of me," she snapped. "That's what this is about. You can't stand that I built something amazing while you dash. While I financed it?" I cut in, my voice calm but pointed. "Yes, Ashley, you really did build it all on your own." My father stepped forward, his tone firm and unwavering. "That's enough, Ashley. You're not going to come into our house and insult Amanda after everything she's done for you." Ashley turned on him, her voice rising to an almost hysterical pitch. "Of course you're on her side. You've always treated me like the bad guy. But let me remind you, this is my business we're talking about. I made it successful." My mother, who had been silent, finally stood up. "You made it successful with Amanda's money," she said, her voice cutting through Ashley's tirade. "And instead of being grateful, you treated her like she was nothing. That ends now." Ashley's bravado crumbled in an instant. Her face turned pale, and for a moment I thought she might cry. But instead, she let out a bitter laugh and stormed out of the house, slamming the door so hard the walls seemed to shake. After Ashley stormed out of my parents' house, there was a tense silence. My dad shook his head, clearly exhausted, while my mom just sat there, staring at the door. "She's not going to pay unless we make her," Dad finally said, breaking the silence. I nodded. I had already accepted that this wasn't going to end with Ashley suddenly coming to her senses. It would take action, not words, to get back what she owed me. "We'll help you," Mom said firmly. "This has gone far enough. She won't get away with this." It was a strange mix of emotions, relief that my parents were on my side, but sadness that it had come to this. Ashley was family, but she had crossed too many lines. With my parents' support, I decided to take formal action. I gathered all the evidence. I had the texts in which Ashley acknowledged the loan, the records of the transfer, and even the screenshots of her dismissive responses when I'd asked for repayment. My dad contacted a lawyer he knew, and within a week, Ashley received a formal letter demanding repayment. The fallout wasn't pretty. Ashley called my parents, screaming about betrayal and how they were ruining her life. She sent me several angry messages, calling me every name under the sun. But when she realized we were serious, the tone changed. Out of nowhere, I got a message late one night. "Fine. I'll pay you back. Just don't take this any further." It wasn't an apology, but it was something. A week later, a partial payment arrived in my account, followed by another a month later. Slowly but surely, I began to recover the money she had taken. My parents apologized to me more than once during the process. "We should have seen this coming," my mother said one night. "We let her get away with too much for too long." I didn't argue. I was just glad the ordeal was finally over. When I received the final payment, the weight that had been hanging over me for months finally lifted. Ashley's manipulations, the tension at family gatherings, the endless excuses, it was all over. I didn't hear much from her after that. She distanced herself from the family, probably out of embarrassment or resentment. My parents tried to reach out a few times, but Ashley kept her responses short and cold. It was clear that she wasn't willing to take responsibility for how she had treated everyone, especially me. Surprisingly, I no longer felt anger toward her, only a quiet sense of closure. She had shown me who she really was, and I had no intention of letting her back into my life. As for my parents, our relationship grew stronger. They made an effort to acknowledge how much I'd done, not only for Ashley, but for the family as a whole. My dad even joked once, "Next time, we'll ask you for a loan. At least we'll pay it back on time." I laughed, but deep down I knew one thing for sure: there wouldn't be a next time. The experience taught me the importance of setting boundaries, even with family. While I wish things had turned out differently, I was proud of myself for standing up, demanding fairness, and refusing to let Ashley take advantage of me any longer. In the end, the peace I gained was worth far more than the money.